Hi everyone, welcome to the Google Hangout for the Big Ideas Toolkit. We're going to wait for about 5 more minutes to let some other people join us, and then we will begin. So just hang on tight and we'll be back with you in a minute. Thank you. Hi everyone, we'll be starting in about 2 minutes, so just hang on and we'll be right back with you. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our second Big Ideas Hangout for the Big Ideas at Berkeley Toolkit. I hope everybody can hear us. If you're tuning in and you actually have already added your audio and video, you might want to click the mute button on your screen, and then if you have a question, you can unmute it, ask your question. Sometimes that tends to work a little better for these Hangouts, but one caveat going into this is we're still relatively new to the Google Hangout world, and so if we experience technical difficulties along the way, please bear with us, and hopefully we won't encounter those, but if we do, please bear with us. So I wanted to start out with some introductions. I'm Philip Denny. I work at UC Berkeley, and I manage the Big Ideas at Berkeley contest.
Hi, I'm Jessica Necker. I'm a graduate student at the Graduate School of Education here at Berkeley, and I've also helped Philip for the past few years run the contest. I've done some advising work with students and also some evaluation work for the contest as well.
Okay, great. So first I just wanted to go over a few of the goals for this info session. Our overarching goal is really to provide you with an overview of the contest and with the Big Ideas Toolkit. We want you to understand why we developed this Big Ideas Toolkit, how we hope it can be useful to other universities and organizations that are looking to start their own student innovation competition or looking to enhance a competition that they already have on their campus. And lastly, we really hope this can be the start of a conversation, a collaboration perhaps, and an opportunity to get feedback from other universities, from other organizations that are working in this sort of atmosphere of student innovation and entrepreneurship. But first, we also wanted to give you some tips on how you can add your video and audio to this Google Hangout.
Right. So in the email that you got inviting you to this Hangout, there was a link to the event page. And so on the event page, you'll see a box in the upper left-hand corner. If you click play on that box, you can watch this webinar. But if you look below that video, there's a say something box. So one way that you can have a conversation with us is to post a comment or question in that say something box. Just note that sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with the video, so you might wait a minute or two for us to answer, but we will answer. The other way you can join, and what we encourage you to do, is in the say something, right underneath the say something box, Philip has posted a link that will allow you to add your audio and video, and so we can have a live conversation. So there's a few of you that have already done that, and if you're able, if you have audio and video capability, we encourage you to click that link and join us.
Great, thanks, Jessica. So the Big Ideas Toolkit was really developed based on our experience managing the Big Ideas at Berkeley contest that's been going on here on the UC Berkeley campus since 2006. Over the past 7 years of managing this very large student innovation competition, we feel that we've honed in on what we think is a strong model for inspiring early stage multidisciplinary student innovation. The toolkit that we'll go over in a minute is really based upon these lessons learned over the past 7 years. It describes our proven contest management strategies, along with some best practices, some tips, and I think some pretty honest, candid reflections about the challenges and opportunities of managing a student innovation competition. We recognize that the model that we describe is really our approach for managing a student innovation competition. It's not the end-all be-all, and we recognize that there are other successful contests out there, and we hope to learn from those contests as we continue to grow. And that's why this toolkit was really developed as a living, breathing document. We're constantly doing iterations of it. We did one this past summer, incorporating some of the lessons we learned last year. And we really see this as a continually evolving document. Every year that we run the contest, we have new challenges and we have new learning opportunities. And so as this contest grows, it will constantly be informed and updated based on new activities and feedback from our students and from our partners and from other competitions that are out there. So that's the first bit. Secondly, the whole idea of this toolkit came about through a collaboration we now have going on with the U.S. Agency for International Development and their Higher Education Solutions Network. The Blum Center, which is who I work for at UC Berkeley, and the Development Impact Lab are part of this Higher Education Solutions Network, which comprises or is headquartered at 7 different campuses across the United States. And so together with USAID, we decided that we really want to share this methodology that we had honed over the past 7 years and really begin to expand our bandwidth, if you want to call it that, and spread sort of this toolkit out to other universities and not just have that here at UC Berkeley, and really open source it so that it could be benefit to other universities and organizations going forward. But before we dive straight into the toolkit, what we want to do is give you a little bit of background about the Big Ideas competition and sort of the structure of it that we've developed and we'll be going forward with this coming year. So I'm going to now try and screen share with you so you can see a presentation that Jessica has developed, and we'll walk you through this. So hopefully this all works. Hang on, we're going to shoot you into hyperspace and you'll get a screen share in a moment. Okay, so that should have taken you now to our Big Ideas Inspiring Student Innovation presentation. So Big Ideas at Berkeley, what is it? It's an annual contest aimed at providing funding, support, encouragement, and we hope inspiration to interdisciplinary teams of students who have big ideas to really improve society in some way. Since its founding in 2006, Big Ideas has inspired innovative and high-impact student-led projects aimed at solving problems that matter to this generation. So the contest categories that we have for this coming year, which we just actually announced and are putting on our website this week. So if you go to our website, you might notice it's a little bit under construction. That's because we're currently putting all the new information for the 2014-15 contest on the website this week. But the contest categories going forward for this year are creative expression for social justice, clean and sustainable energy alternatives, conflict and development, which is co-sponsored by Texas A&M's Conflict and Development Center, the food systems innovation category, global health, improving student life, information technology, mobiles for reading, which is a new category this year, open data for development, which is another revised category that we are in collaboration with William and Mary's AID data program, and then scaling up, which is a contest for past winners of Big Ideas who are looking to take their projects to the next level. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty broad range of categories, and it's intentionally that way. We want to have categories that are very broad and very open so that students can come in with a wide range of ideas and submit applications to Big Ideas. We want to take advantage of sort of the creativity that exists in the student population and get their new ideas out there. And so we have a very wide-ranging, broad set of topics that are intentionally designed that way to get the very best ideas out of students. Secondly, we want to begin to walk you through a video. This video describes Big Ideas better than I can, probably.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries.
I think what makes an idea big is its potential for its impact in the community.
It's novel, it's unique, it's challenging, it's exciting.
The Big Ideas program seed funds and encourages student innovation for a better planet.
Undergraduate students are rarely recognized as producing innovative, cutting-edge ideas.
You know, it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of, it doesn't take a 5-year PhD research project in order to do some of these things.
I heard about the Big Ideas program and it was brought to our attention as a group, and we thought, hey, this would be a really great opportunity to kind of get the word out about our projects and see if we can get some support.
And it ends up being much more than a grant because it gives you that confidence to go forward. The fact that there's other people in the room and other people at Cal that are reviewing this and thinking, hey, you should go for this.
Having it was like one of the best things for our project. It really got us off the ground at a point where we needed that extra inspiration.
Yeah, knowing that the campus is supporting projects like this and that you have access to these resources has been very instrumental.
just the fact that Big Ideas existed and seemed willing to fund a project like this gave us hope, because our budget for dental is actually like under $200 a semester, and we saved the residents of Berkeley like probably $50,000 to $100,000 just through the services we have.
Capitalize on the creativity of the students. Don't tell them the solution. Give them the opportunity and let them come up with creative ideas.
We should disabuse ourselves of the idea that all smarts are with the professors. Students are just as smart, they're just younger, that's all.
We created a business plan for Big Ideas. So it really gave us that push to really follow through on this and give up our investment banking and consulting offers that we had. And as soon as we got the news that we had gotten the grant, I think that's the first time we said, hey, let's give up what we were doing and let's follow our passion.
The power of the small grant is that it allows students to experiment earlier in their lives. They don't need to wait to complete a PhD and get a faculty appointment to try something new. I think that's very important. Otherwise, we waste a whole kind of generation just waiting for the credentials to do something they have some capacity to do earlier.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries and it really kind of surpasses what was already there and sets a precedent for something new.
Okay, so I just wanted to expand on some of the things that Philip was saying. You now have an idea of what Big Ideas looks like, but I think it's also helpful to compare the Big Ideas model to other more traditional business plan competitions that you might be more familiar with, because there are a number of ways in which the Big Ideas model is very similar, and there are a number of important differences as well. So the first thing that makes Big Ideas distinct is there's a strong focus on social impact. All of the projects that students submit every year have some sort of social impact mission, social justice mission, social entrepreneurship, something like that, whereas traditional business plan competitions tend to focus on ventures that will generate some sort of profit. The next important difference is that Big Ideas really focuses on recruiting and supporting students who are at the earliest stages of developing their ideas. So students who enter Big Ideas contest are thinking about how their idea might look, or they're starting to think about how they might implement their project, whereas students who enter traditional business plan competitions tend to advance a pre-existing, already commercially viable business. So we're supporting students earlier on in that process. Another important difference is that Big Ideas is really a campus-based, multidisciplinary, team-based approach. So that means that we encourage students to enter the contest from all disciplines. Last year we had students enter from 80 different departments and majors across campus. The contest is also open to undergraduates and graduate students. Last year in the first round of the contest we had 75% of our applicants were undergraduates and 25% of graduate students.
And I think that's a really great point that Jessica brought up, because one of the things we're trying to do with Big Ideas here at Berkeley is get students started earlier in their careers, earlier in their education, thinking about these issues and how they can use their education in real applied ways, how they can augment their education by entering an innovation competition and beginning to build skills that way.
Exactly, and that is another important difference, right? So traditional business plan competitions tend to involve principally graduate students, and they tend to be centered within business and engineering departments and pull students from those departments, where Big Ideas is really hoping to get broad representation from the campus. And then the last important difference is that the Big Ideas contest tries to add in as many resources and supports for students as possible. And so the contest cycle is structured as intentionally long. It spans the academic year to allow students time to think about and revise and get feedback on their ideas, whereas business plan competitions tend to have shorter contest cycles. And because we have that long contest cycle, we also have the opportunity to build in resources during the year. So those resources include things like information sessions and writing workshops, advising hours, mentorship opportunities. And so we hope that all of those resources will support students in skill building to build a set of skills that we think are really important for their success on that project that they're working on, and also for future social impact ventures.
And that's another key point that I want to stress as well. We feel that, the impact of the projects is ultimately what we hope to achieve, that these students will go out there and do great things in the world. But equally important to us is helping students develop that skill set, helping them learn about what it takes to start a social venture. These are the key skill building aspects that we believe are equally as important as the projects and the impact they can have.
Right, and because that education and skill building component is one of our primary goals, what we've done over the past few years is try to evaluate to what extent we're successful at achieving that goal. And so one of the things we've looked at each year at the end of the contest cycle, we'll go to our finalists and our applicants and we'll ask them to what extent they feel that they've developed skills in areas that we think are important. And this is just a sampling of some of the data that we've received. So for example, 100% of the finalists from our most recent contest cycle reported that they became more creative in thinking about solutions to problems. 98%, virtually all of the finalists, reported that they improved their ability to think critically about market or community needs. And all of them, 100%, reported that they became better able to transform innovative ideas into useful applications. So we think this data shows that we are quite successful at helping our applicants develop those skills that are really critical for their success in the short term. And then we've also asked our winners about the long-term impacts of participating. And what we find is that 96% of our past winners report that participating in the contest significantly and positively influenced their career trajectories. So they report things like, thanks to participating, they've had a renewed commitment to working in areas of social justice, or they worked full-time on their project that they submitted to the Big Ideas contest, which they wouldn't have done otherwise.
And that goes back to the point of looking at the Big Ideas contest both from its ability to create projects that have impact and transforming that educational experience for the students so they can begin to think about, other trajectories for their career.
Right. And we also find that our winners are quite successful at garnering additional support for their projects. So almost a third of our past winners have reported they've gone on to win at least one other additional award or business plan competition. And then finally, we also look at to what extent students continue to work on their projects. So one thing to note is that Big Ideas is different than a grant competition where students are required to implement their project. So Big Ideas is simply an award for the idea. Students aren't required to implement their projects, although we encourage it and we hope that they will. And when we look at our data, we find, so this is data from our 2012 winners, and we find that almost all of them are continuing to work on their Big Ideas project in some capacity. So about half are still finishing up school and working part-time, about a quarter have graduated and are working full-time on their project. Another fifth are graduated and working part-time, and only one project is discontinued.
And I think this goes back to the fact that the Big Ideas cycle is an entire academic year-long cycle. It has both a pre-proposal and a final stage. So students spend the entire year going through information sessions, writing workshops, budgeting workshops, an 8-week mentorship if you make it to the final round. By the time they complete that entire academic year, they are very vested in their projects. They sort of have self-identified the most passionate, committed students. And when they win these awards, which are on average about $5,000, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 really, they are committed to that project. They do implement the project, even though, as Jessica mentioned, they're not mandated to do so.
Right. And so as Philip was saying, there are many models for how to run a contest, and this is just one model. But we think these data show that we're quite successful at fostering that skill development in students and commitment to their projects long term. And so that brings us to our toolkit. So the Big Ideas Toolkit is our attempt to share what we've learned from running the contest, the success that we've had, and also the challenges that we've faced. And as Philip mentioned, we tried to be as honest and candid as possible in the toolkit and as thorough as possible so that if you read through the toolkit, you would have a very complete, very thorough understanding of how we run the contest, what we think about when we run the contest, the challenges that we faced, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the table of contents and really quickly go through each of the sections just so you have a sense of what we offer in the toolkit and what you can learn by reading through it. So the first two sections are an introduction and an executive summary. If you're short on time, you can browse those and get a really good sense of what we included in the toolkit. The third chapter is a chapter on our mission and goals. So as we noted, our mission and goals are quite different from business plan competitions or other innovation competitions. So we've included a discussion of our mission and goals, how they're different, how they've developed over time. And then our next chapter is on the history of Big Ideas. So Big Ideas has evolved quite a bit over the years, and we tinker with it every year, the model, a little bit. So the history chapter goes through how it's changed and developed over time. And then we get into sort of the nitty-gritty of managing the contest. So we have a chapter on program management and responsibilities. So that goes through all of the staff who work on the Big Ideas contest, and it includes their job descriptions and how those have changed over time as well. We have a chapter on Big Ideas funding and category development. So that's how we develop the categories, what we think about when we're thinking about adding a new category, what we consider when we're thinking about not renewing a category, and then how we garner some funding for those categories. We have a chapter on the contest structure, rules, and requirements. So that's the timeline for the contest, all the things that happen in that academic year, the rules that students look at when they're entering the contest, and the application requirements for each of the rounds of the contest. Then we have a chapter on contest resources. So those are all the resources that we've added into the contest for students. So again, those are things like the information sessions, writing workshops, advising hours, and our philosophy for each of those components, so that we have a particular approach to thinking about advising hours, for example. So we've included our philosophy in there. We have a chapter on mentorship. So finalists, so students who make it to the final round of the competition have an opportunity to participate in a mentorship program. So the mentorship chapter, we talk about how we recruit mentors, how we pair them with student teams, how we talk to students and mentors about that relationship in order to foster a really productive one for them. We have a chapter on judging, which includes how many judges we try to recruit, how we recruit them, the qualifications for judging, the training that we do with judges, things like that. A chapter on the online contest platform. So we've used a number of different platforms to run the contest that allow students to submit their applications online and judges to judge online. And we talk about the different platforms that we've used and the strengths and the weaknesses of each of those platforms. Student outreach chapter goes over how we advertise to students, how we get that broad representation from students across the campus, across departments, and the different ways that we've tried to do that have been successful and not as successful for our campus. We have a chapter on prize awards, so that's the nitty-gritty of how we disperse the prize awards. And then the last chapter is on evaluation and feedback. So all of that evaluation data that I presented before, how we collect that, how we analyze that, and so on. And so each of those chapters has a long narrative that talks about everything you would want to know about each of those contest components. And then it also includes a tips section, which is sort of our handy tips about things that have worked particularly well for us. And it includes the tool section. And the tool section are resources that you can download, edit, tinker with, and use in your own contest if you'd like to. And so these are tips and tools from the judging section in particular. And so you can see the tools that we offer in the judging section are the judging scorecards, the judging handbook, the training presentation that we use, all of the emails that we send to judges. So we try to include literally everything you would need in order to run that component of the contest.
Yep, basically if we used it for the Big Ideas of Berkeley competition, it's provided as a resource to others who would like to borrow from it, plagiarize it, do whatever you want with it. We really want to open source everything so that we could augment other competitions and hopefully start new competitions at other universities. But what we want to do right now is take you out of this presentation and into the toolkit itself. So we're going to try and do that. Here we go. Great. Okay, so right now you're looking at the Big Ideas Toolkit. It's on the Big Ideas website at bigideas.berkeley.edu/toolkit. I'm trying to, there we go. Let's do this so we can make it a full screen page. There we go. So as you can see up here, it's bigideas.berkeley.edu/toolkit. If you were on the home page and you wanted to find it, you would just go on About and drop down to Big Ideas Toolkit. So those are the two ways to find the toolkit. The introduction is just an overview of why we developed the toolkit and what it essentially consists of. But we also, as Jessica mentioned, have these various chapters that coincide with the chapter she just showed you as a sidebar here on the web page. We have the introduction and executive summary, mission goals, all the categories that Jessica just went over. I want to take you to the executive summary page. So as Jessica also mentioned, if you have very little time and just wanted the quick key takeaways, you would come to the executive summary and you could get the highlights from each chapter. You can also download a PDF version of the toolkit if you're running onto an airplane and want to take the toolkit to run away with. This is where you would click on the toolkit, you could download it and print it out. So that's one way to read it as well if you don't like the online version. But then we go through all these various categories. I want to show you the judging category. So if you click over here on the judging tab, it takes you into the judging section. Where we have the sections that go over judge qualifications, the number of judges we try and recruit. It goes through the judges' timeline and how we begin to train and work with the judges and the criteria they use. Goes through all these various components of our judging process. And then at the very bottom, we have the tips, which sort of highlight some of the key lessons learned and key tips along the way in this particular section. And then we have all of the tools, and these are all PDF resources that you can click on, download, and use as you might. So for instance, if you wanted to look at how we reach out to judges via email, you could click on the judge recruitment email, and you can see this is sort of the language we use. This is how we initially reach out to judges using both email and phone calls as well. But those resources are all there for you to review. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is that we have a master sort of appendix of all the tools. So if you didn't want to go chapter by chapter through, you could look here at the tools appendix, and basically you have every resource that we use to manage the competition. All those PDFs that are in the various chapters are here for you in one web page. Okay, so now I want to go back to the presentation, if that works.
I also, while Philip's transitioning, I want to remind people, if you have questions or comments that are coming up, please feel free, if you're live on the Hangout, to unmute yourself and interrupt us. And also you can post something in the Say Something box if you're on the event page, and we'll be sure to answer or respond to it.
Yeah, so please ask questions along the way, or we'll also have time at the end if you want to ask a question at the end. Anything about the structure of the contest or about the toolkit. So everybody always asks sort of what are our key lessons learned, and if I had to summarize it into 4 bullet points, I mean there's many more than this, but if I had to summarize it into 4 key bullet points, it would probably be this. Incentivize broad participation. That's what we've really tried to do with Big Ideas. Every time we're thinking about a category, thinking about outreach, thinking about recruiting judges, mentors, anything we do, we want to encourage as much participation as possible from across disciplines, from across the student population, both graduate and undergraduates. We really want to get as many students thinking about how they can combine their education with sort of applied work, either in this field of innovation or elsewhere. But we really want to get as many students participating in this as possible. So we try and incentivize broad participation. Number 2 is we want to give students a lot of opportunities for skill development, feedback, and mentorship. We initially had the Big Ideas contest structured as just a single semester competition. What we wanted to do, or what we heard from students, what we wanted to do was that they needed more resources to help them develop their idea. I think this is something when I've talked to folks who run other prize competitions that they've encountered as well. So about 4 years ago, we expanded the competition to an academic year-long competition. We added all those resources that Jessica and I had mentioned previously, like information sessions, writing workshops, budgeting workshops, a longer mentorship period. And we've seen students reporting that their skill development has increased extraordinarily. So we're offering those types of opportunities. Students are taking advantage of them, and we're seeing the quality of the applications improve at the same time. As I mentioned previously as well, one of these key takeaways is that the impact on the student is as important as the impact of the project. We have this entire educational scaffolding now around the Big Ideas contest, and students, regardless of whether that project goes on and does great things in the world or doesn't, those students have that education scaffolding. They have those skills that they've taken away from the competition. They may apply that to their next project, or they may apply it to whatever sort of endeavor or traditional business career they go into, but they have that key education skill building takeaway from the Big Ideas contest, and that's very important to us. And then lastly, we're trying to do more to support students after the contest cycle. This is an area where we're trying to improve. We focused a lot on the competitions, and we feel the competition itself, and we feel we have a good process down for managing the competition. But we also now are beginning to expand the amount of resources we have for students once they win their Big Ideas Award and they go on to do things. We have new things like Practitioners in Residence program. We have an Innovators On-Ramp course where students who have won Big Ideas or other competitions can come and take a course here on the UC Berkeley campus that goes through some key skills that students need as they're sort of taking their project from the ideation stage to sort of more of a venture capital ready stage. And we have a lot of other things for students. We have an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign that we're going to be launching in partnership with Indiegogo, where students can begin to raise additional resources for their projects. So we're still building out those features of the competition, but it's something we're continually thinking about. So that really wraps up our presentation, but what we want to do is offer folks an opportunity to comment, to question, to talk online on the Hangout. If you need to reach us at any point in the future, you can reach me at bigideas@berkeley.edu. There's our phone number, 666-9120. That's area code 510. You can also go on the website and contact us through the website, but please feel free to contact us at any stage, because we'd love to have opportunities to get feedback, to discuss other ideas that are out there in the field that are working, and sort of evolve the toolkit as we go forward. So with that, I will turn it over for additional questions if anybody has any. And I'm going to take you out of this, and you're going to see me and Jessica in a second again. There we are. So, Jessica, did we get any questions on the social stream?
We got one question. Someone wants to know a little bit more about what happens with teams once they win their award, what the expectations are for them, and a little more about the support.
Okay. Well, for that, I think I would take you back into the toolkit. So let me go back here again. Actually, let's see. We got a screen share with you first. These are the technical difficulties I was talking about. So we're going to screen share with you again. We're going to take you to the Big Ideas Toolkit. And we actually have a slide. Actually, we have two slides that I might want to go over with you really quickly. So first is the timeline. As you can see, this is a timeline for last year's competition. We're currently updating it for this year's competition. But you can see along the way, through August to June of last year, we had all these different activities and events and deadlines for students, information sessions. We had an idea generation dinner where students could come, pitch their ideas for 1 or 2 minutes, and try and build their team and their networks. We had workshops where they could focus on writing and budgeting. We had an Innovators at Cal event where we had a keynote speaker, an entrepreneur, and students also could pitch ideas and network. We had information sessions. We had an editing blitz where the night before the pre-proposal deadline, students came with their applications, and we had advisors and mentors and judges on hand to review their proposals and give them last-minute feedback. We had a mentorship phase. We had a full proposal deadline, and then we had some key events towards the end. Let's go down. There we go. The grand prize pitch day.
Oh,
there we go.
Apologize.
There we go. We had the grand prize pitch day and an award celebration. The pitch day was the opportunity for the top 6 teams in the Big Ideas competition to pitch their ideas before a public audience and a panel of judges to win additional funding. The winner celebration is a great event every year where all the teams that have won awards come together and have a chance to network, meet one another, have a poster session, and get more publicity for their ideas, meet the mentors and judges, and just really it's an opportunity for them to learn about the other projects in the competition.
Yeah, and I will say every year we're thinking about what else we can do to better support students. So we ask them what they would like, but also part of the conversation with you is to learn what you think what you've seen that's worked well for you or for other competitions, and sort of learn from each other. So we're welcoming feedback as well.
Okay. And there was the question about what are we doing to help support winners of the competition once they've gone through the competition, they have a little money in their pocket, and they're ready to proceed. Some of the post-award resources that we have developed over the past year or two, you'll see up here. We have a practitioners and residents program where we have individuals from the professional world come in and talk about various issues and hold office hours on intellectual property, on business plan development, issues like that. We have a social innovators on-ramp, which was the course I mentioned, which helps teach entrepreneurs and innovators some key skills that they need to have in order to begin to launch their venture. We are starting, and should be up soon, hopefully by the beginning of this semester, an on-ramp virtual advisor, and that will be a website resource that has a list of all these different resources, competitions, funding opportunities, potential partnerships, and opportunities for students to follow up with as they begin to build their idea. We have a partnership with Indiegogo, where we will have a Big Ideas Indiegogo webpage where students can go in and crowdsource and to get some funding for their projects. And then through the Development Impact Lab here at UC Berkeley, that's affiliated with the Blum Center with the Higher Education Solutions Network, we have opportunities for students and faculty to engage and get additional funding for their projects, attend key events where they can learn more about entrepreneurship and innovation, and there is a lot going on in the Development Impact Lab, and I would urge you to check out their website as well.
Okay, if there are any other questions, feel free to comment in the Say Something area, or you can unmute yourself and ask live.
Okay, and we really appreciate everybody attending. If there's no questions, we'll just leave you once again with our email and with our phone number. It's bigideas@berkeley.edu if you have questions and you want to address them by email, or feel free to give us a call at 510-666-9120. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to learn more about what you're doing, why you're interested in this student innovation competition, and hopefully we can learn from you. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.